Remitter Road, just two quick things. I agree, we need to have the public hearing and discuss that. I just want to read from this document. In drafting the following proposed regulations, we have considered the input of Brooker Engineering, who has been retained by the Orthodox Jewish Coalition to represent their interests. There is no mention of any other, no Rastafarians, no Catholics, no other religion in this, except the Orthodox Jewish Coalition.
That was
That's all.
mentioned at last meeting also. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Nichols.
just making that point.
So that's the second
Okay.
reason we told. Thank you.
Okay. 21 Lancaster Lane. Tons, 21 Lancaster Lane. Tons, truckloads of untested, illegal fill have been dumped there months ago, many months ago. And it was given a violation notice on a stop work order. 2 months ago, I submitted, may I submit this?
Sure.
This complaint with the photos, because by then, 2 months ago, it was still there, and it was starting to erode and drain down into the neighbor below at 6 Carroll. As far as I can tell, there is still nothing being done. This, if you look at that mess, you know, that is a disaster site, okay? And I want you to, so my question simply is, what's gonna be done about this?
I will follow it up. However, before I came over here this evening and reviewing my monthly reports on violation searches, permits, and things of that nature, I did specifically see 21 Lancaster for some type of soil permit. So apparently a permit was acquired.
A permit was required for that?
Acquired.
Acquired for that fill?
Something with soil, yes. I don't have the, again, before I came over here this evening, there was something on my report
Okay,
that
but it
showed
was given
soil.
a violation by Everett
And the
for
violation,
illegal dumping.
and the violation probably said you need to get a permit so it could be inspected. But we'll follow up
Okay,
more, again, but they did get a permit.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Mr. Mallory.
Chris Mallory, 7 Imperial Lane. I wanted to thank Mr. Miller for talking about the garbage situation, the pickup. I myself personally do not ever get anyone to come up the driveway to pick up the garbage. I've called a number of times down to the hall. They said they would take care of it. But to date, nobody has come up to pick up my garbage. And it was very weird because, like I say, they said they were going to take care of it, and nothing happened.
First of all, the garbage cans, number one, have to be either on the side of the home or in the front, number
They
one.
are.
Number two, it could
They
be no
are.
more than, what, this is 120 feet, right? 125 feet from the curb. So if those cans are more than 125 feet, they're not gonna come up to your driveway.
Yeah, but,
125 feet.
People with identical layouts to my house, they do in fact go down and pick up this stuff.
125 feet.
Can we just take down your address
We'll
Yes,
find out.
7 Imperial Lane.
and 7 Imperial?
We'll look
Yes.
into it.
Thank you.
Everybody on our street puts their garbage in the street, on the driveway, because nobody comes, they come up nobody's driveway, on the entire street, we live on a cul-de-sac.
And they used to.
Well,
They used to.
Well, first of all, IWS, who's been with us now, they signed up with us since last July. They were actually the Carters, we'll say 2 years before. And they were always very good with that. There was never, ever any complaint with them not coming up driveways, picking up folks' garbage. So, it's possible that if, number one, if they've been so used to folks putting their garbage on the curb, and then when they don't see it, they presume that you don't have garbage anymore. Unfortunately, that happened to me. I was doing the same thing. I thought I was doing the garbage guy a favor, and I bring my garbage down to the curb. And then in listening to Trustee Miller, I said, you know, what am I doing this for? I'm gonna leave it by my house. Well, you know what? They didn't pick up my garbage for a couple of days because they figured I didn't have any garbage. But we got the word out and they started back again. So we'll follow up. So it could just be something like that. It could just be something.
I do bring down my
Now I go
garbage.
by Mr. Miller's house.
I do bring it down when it's
They
heavy.
hadn't picked it up in
I
2
do
years.
bring it down when it's heavy.
Sure, go-
I have regard for them. I bring it down when it's heavy. but they've gotten used to coming up the driveway.
Yeah.
My neighbors always thought they were coming up the driveway because I was a trustee. And they don't know who I am, believe me.
And that's for household garbage, for like big
Yeah.
trash and stuff like that,
Oh,
that
yeah.
needs to go to the
We
curb.
wouldn't put anything like that,
We'll
acceptable.
follow up, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sheridan, name and address for the record, please.
Ed Sharon, 46 Pascack. At a previous meeting, I know I had mentioned 267 Red Schoolhouse Road, and I had mentioned that what it's being used for is not allowed in the zone. You vehemently disagree with me. So I'm wondering, here's a list of what's allowed in the RS zone. So is it an office? Is it a pizza place? Is it a pharmaceutical company? But did you look at this? Have you been able to find that use anywhere? Because it's not here.
I'll take it for the record, thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Sheridan.
Oh, I'm not done.
Okay.
Also, there's about 300 cars there. Article 7, page 7. No commercial vehicle nor unregistered vehicle should be parked or stored on any unimproved lot. So, what's that violation times 300? I mean, it doesn't even have a sign permit. There's no site plan.
Mr. Sheridan, you know that regulation you're reading from doesn't apply to a property that is permitted to have numerous vehicles on the premises, such as the BMW lot, which is across the street next to the Chestnut Ridge School, Chestnut Ridge Transportation. They have probably 300-400 BMWs that are not registered and have license plates on them, and they're not illegal because there's more than 2 of them there.
They also have
Because-
parking spaces that are marked.
Thank you, Mr.
8 by
Sheridan, but you're
20.
being disingenuous by reading that portion of the law, saying that anything more than one unregistered.
Do they have a
vehicle-
permit to park 300 cars in that
We
parking
will
lot?
look into it, Mr. Sheridan, thank you very
Keep
much.
looking.
Mr. Sherman, name and address for the record.
Hal Sherman, 8 Pine Knoll
Good
Court.
evening.
Good evening. Last meeting, we talked about the light in the parking lot, and it's still not functional.
I thought it was fixed.
We called and everything.
I was told that it was fixed. All right.
You're talking about the street light?
We're talking about the street light.
Right here, yes.
Yeah.
The other,
We called.
They were notified.
they were notified.
Yeah, we called.
If we called one of the code enforcers, I think this room would be condemned as far as health and violations. Take a look at these light fixtures and the amount of debris that's there. You've got outlets that are coming out of the wall. You've got a carpet over here at the entranceway that's a hazard to cause tripping. The water dispenser is filthy. This room hasn't been cleaned, and you expect us to call this home. But I think that it needs to be updated, cleaned, and maintained.
Mr. Sherman, we have a cleaning service that comes here at least 2-3 times a week, that vacuums, they clean. For you to say that there's health.
No. I sat over there
Thank you,
a month
Mr. Sherman. We'll
ago.
look.
I sat over there a month ago, and there was sawdust right where this gentleman is standing. Look down there, it's still there.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Name and address for the record, please.
Abraham Deutsch, 17 Lamont.
Good evening, sir.
Abraham Deutsch, 17 Lamont. I just want to share a story that happened 2 weeks ago when everybody had a blackout. Not everybody, but a lot of people in Chestnut had a blackout. I had a generator that was running, and because Sabbath I'm not allowed to put gas, I was waiting outside in front of my house. Maybe someone's going to pass by and pour me in gas to my generator. Somebody passed by. At that time, I didn't know his name, but his name is John, but I still don't know his last name, so let's call him John Doe. He has a landscaping company that's called Custom Landscaping. That's what I think. He stopped by and he started putting in gas, and for some reason he couldn't start the generator. He was working 15 minutes on it, and I said, thank you, I really appreciate it. I went to shul, he went home. I came home expecting that there's no steam, no electricity, the generator is running. I asked my wife what happened. That John Doe came back and he fixed the generator, was missing oil, and he told my wife, I served as a Marine. And one of the things that I was taught as a Marine, if you see something and you could be a help, don't walk away. The guy went home and he spent a lot of time to fix my generator. Why am I telling this story? Because by knowing this story and seeing this story, I came to the conclusion there is a common denominator with all residents in the village of Chestnut Ridge to be on the same page. And to get up here, but it's second time meeting, and to bash the mayor that was elected by the people of the village of Chestnut Ridge, that he's doing something that's against the law, is closing his eyes. I personally applied for a permit. I still don't have a CFO. I still have problems with the inspector. There's no special attention. Everybody has to abide by the law. But to keep on getting up and telling that you have to spend more tax money and code enforcements, every time certain people see a commercial vehicle parked in a driveway, they assume someone is doing something illegal. For the same reason, the commercial vehicle could just clean the carpet to fix a refrigerator, but they keep on calling the village, send on the code enforcement and the village taxpayers' money, and that's not right. So it's time to find a common denominator and live as normal human people. That's one thing. The second of all, people were told time and time and time again, I live here for 40 years, and different people came in and take over the neighborhood. The American dream is not like Europe, it's not like Germany, not like France, that the same kind of people live in a village for generations and generations. And American people are moving. That's the American dream. There's no city or village that's today like it was when the United States of America was founded. That's the way the democracy was created, and I really feel bad for people that live here for 40 years and different people move in. That's the way the American dream is being done in all 50 states, in all villages and all towns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. And you kind of stole my thunder a little bit too, because I actually meant to say during my report earlier this evening that I had heard numerous instances of folks going around the village during the Wednesday storm last week under those conditions, in that they were basically listening for folks with generators, and they were stopping by with gasoline, and they were filling the generators with gasoline, and they weren't asking for any money. They basically, as a
I want my wife wanted to give him a bottle of salt, but he didn't want to take it.
and this was, again, it was probably Friday night into Saturday. So I think they were looking for everybody. I don't think they really looked to see where your generator was connected to as far as your household was concerned. But the bottom line was there are folks that were out there in the village who were doing a wonderful job and showing their generosity and looking after folks. And I appreciate you, Mr. Deutsch, with your comment, and I was remiss in not bringing that up earlier, but I had heard other instances of that going on throughout the village, and it's still nice to see. It's nice to see that folks are doing that. So again, I thank you for bringing that to our attention also. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Mark Marone, 23 Lancaster.
Good evening, Mr. Morone.
I didn't come here to talk about this today, but I live next door to 21 Lancaster, where they put in thousands of yards of fill in the backyard, which I don't have a problem with. But they have a permit and they have a plan and a time frame, okay, which I don't know if any of that is done, but there needs to be an engineering plan on how they're going to grade and support the thousands of yards of fill that they put in that's going to be drained back into my neighbors on Carroll and whatnot. And then another thing I'm concerned about is One Carroll. And I just want to know, is One Carroll recognized as a residential house of worship?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Is it, it's a single family residence though, right?
I believe so.
Do they require garages for single family residence?
Yes, they do.
And do they have to be used as a garage, or can they be used as other houses of worship or community rooms, or do they have to be used as a garage?
I can't force you to use your garage as to put your car in. You can use your garage however you're going to choose to use your garage.
So you can put a bathroom in the garage?
No.
No.
Mr. Moore, we're speculating. The
Okay,
garage,
I'm really very concerned about the design of the project and what you're doing there, because it seems like they're building a structure for the World Trade Center with the foundation, and probably $100,000 you're spending on a foundation for a playroom, which was what the original permit was for. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys have recognized that.
Yes.
And also, I saw a picture of the plan that looks like they're putting a catering hall in with a flat roof, which doesn't look like anything in the neighborhood. And I was also told that that's for future expansion.
Mr. Morone, did you look at the plans?
I took a quick glance at some of the plans.
Okay,
Yes.
you took a quick glance.
Yes.
Okay. It's a flat roof because they may eventually put a second story on.
That shouldn't be.
So-
That doesn't make any sense because they may.
Mr. Morone,
Yes.
the house owner
Yes.
currently, in accordance with the plans that are submitted before the building department, chose to have a flat roof because they told the building inspector they may eventually would like to put a second story on the home, which they are entitled to do. However, they are not in this situation where they're gonna put that second story on now. There is nothing that has come to the village's attention that there's gonna be a catering hall in that home.
It just appears like it's going to be catered.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Okay, and I just have a concern that it's probably going to be used as a house of worship, which I'm fine with, but I think it should be like you're going to make this new law for residential house of worship, where people have to go in front of the planning board, and there have to be like designs for shrubs and plants and trees and windows and all that. And I think they're evading, that's going to be evading, so I would hope that maybe you could delay the process until you do put that in, 'cause otherwise it's going to turn into another 3 Spring Hill.
Whatever happens at that home, we will enforce in accordance with the laws that we have on the books. I am told that our village engineer, has been to 21 Lancaster with regard to the soil movement that's going on there.
Right, because you're going to kill like all the trees in the woods, the amount of dirt they put
It's
in.
already
But I just hope that they design something that is going to get done in due time.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Anyone else wish to speak? Mr. Levine, name and address for the record, please.
Mark Levine, 14 Lancaster Lane. Since one Carol keeps getting brought up, and the deputy chairman has said that under our zoning laws, you can expand your house and possibly 5,000 square feet. But since you also said if you see something, say something, I'm going to say something. Okay, when I look at the plans for One Carroll, the existing plans, without adding the second addition on, I feel you're looking at close to 7,000 square feet. Now, if a second addition is ever put on, which could be, that'll bring it to close to 9,000 square feet. Let me finish. Okay, the plans, if you look at the plans, their permit states that the existing dwelling is 2,048 or 2,035 square feet. The plans themselves show that the structure is 2,650. If anybody did the math, the existing structure is more than 2,650. It's 27 something. I'm not going to do the math. It should have been done properly to begin with.
Martin Spence was on it too, but we have Martin looking at it too.
Also, there's a letter in the file stating that the existing plan already exceeded the floor area ratio, which is 0.20. The plan shows that they're at 0.20. But I think you said swimming pool, whatever, the mikveh, that was added on February 5th, 2018, adds more floor area ratio and should have triggered a variance, but it didn't. And my feeling is that variance should have been triggered way before the mikveh.
You mean the need for a variance?
Excuse me?
You meant the need for a variance would be triggered?
The need for a variance. It's stated in the file.
Just clarify.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm sorry if I didn't say it properly, but the need for a variance, okay, should have been triggered right away. If it wasn't triggered right away, it definitely should have been triggered when the mikveh was added, because the plan states that it's at 0.20 And the mikveh plan says it's adding to the floor area ratio. So a variance should have been granted for this. I also in the file.
You don't mean granted, you mean
Applied.
sure.
I can't hear.
He means applied for. We got you, Mark.
I'm sorry. Applied for. Okay. Also looking in the file, there was a letter from the town of Ramapo that in 2017, an inspection was done to the house. They sent a letter to the building inspector asking if the synagogue in the garage, that they noticed there was an open building permit for one carol, and they asked if the building permit was going to address the synagogue, that the garage that had been converted to a synagogue, and there's pictures of the synagogue in the file for one carol. Now, yes, the applicant can come in and put a second story on if they want, and if it's done legally, they should seek a variance. But if this synagogue, and I don't think anybody on the street or in the area objects to the synagogue, it's been used this way for several years. The plans also show no fire doors between the house and the garage, which is probably because the garage is not a garage, it's a synagogue. But if it's going to remain a synagogue and not go back to a garage, where are they going to put a garage on the plans? There's no room left. So, I mean, there's something wrong with one carol. The plans themselves just don't make sense. Somebody has to find out if that synagogue is going to remain, because if it's not going to remain, then they can convert it back to a garage, but it's not, nothing is shown on the plans. So it's extremely confusing to the neighbors, because there haven't been any public hearings on this, on what's going on. And if that second story ever comes about, we're going to have close to a 9,000 square foot dwelling, which is 4 times the size of three and a half to 4 times the size of any house in the development. So,
I don't want to speculate with regard to what's gonna be there, what eventually could be there. We'll look into, again, you're bringing up correspondence I'm not familiar with. I'll
it's the building file.
I will, well, yeah, but you're saying it's a letter from the town of Ramapo. I don't know why the town of Ramapo would send a letter such as that, other than if it's for tax assessment purposes, because otherwise the town of Ramapo has really nothing to do with would be that particular building.
No, but the letter, I didn't fully understand the letter, but the letter, I believe an assessor went out. Maybe they wanted to refinance to get a loan for the building that they're doing.
It's possible that they're maybe applying through Ramapo for some type of tax abatement with regard to house of worship. I don't know.
It didn't look like that, and it didn't go that way. But,
okay.
But the thing, my point is that you have a structure, okay, that's actively being used for a synagogue now. It has been for years. Nobody has complained. the neighborhood doesn't have a problem with it. Right now, the neighborhood doesn't know what they're getting. And that's what the problem is. We know it's massive. We know it hasn't come before any boards. We just know that it's being approved by building permits. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Conlon, name and address for the record again.
Tim Conlon, 4 New Town Road. I think I should echo the point that he made, that the neighborhood doesn't know what they're getting, but they're very concerned. There's a lot of people in the neighborhood who are not here, long-term residents. And it seems a shame to not be fair to these people to take up the process. Let's say this is just speculation about what's been said about this building, and let's just say for the record that it is a single-family residence. But this indoor mikvah. Okay, so that apparently was not in the plans as originally submitted. And the square footage and the floor area ratio was in compliance. Now, could you tell me, so does the square footage of the mikvah add to the square footage of the residence? Since it's a pool, is it floor area or?
Mr. Conlon, don't take this the wrong way. Mr. Levine is very astute as far as reading, looking at the building file, things of that nature. However, I am not going to be able to opine for you exactly what's going on in that file because I have not seen that file. The best that I could do at this juncture is, again, I will follow up with the building inspector. My suggestion to you is, and for your own sake, perhaps you can call Village Hall and make an appointment with the building inspector. Sit down with Mr. Glanicki, and you could, number one, if you want to go over the file, or number two, you could ask the questions that you're asking, okay? If you feel as though that he's not answering the questions as you see fit, or whatever the case may be, before you leave this evening, I'll give you my contact information, and I'll have no issue with speaking with you again.
I think it would be helpful to have a meeting with the buildings, with the other neighbors
First
who
of
don't
all,
have the time to
it's
come down here or the
inclination.
inclination.
That's not the process, okay? The process, and I say that not to say because that's the way it's done. The process is set so that it's supposed to be fair, it's supposed to be efficient, and that we're not having neighborhood meetings every time a building is going up that perhaps people aren't happy with, or they're hearing rumors about, or whatever the case may be. There is a mechanism, as a homeowner, if you have questions, and that mechanism is to come to Village Hall, look at the file, and then if you need to speak with village personnel, they are available to you. That's the procedure, and that's the mechanism. Now, if you want to then go back and speak to your neighbor, say, hey, I spoke with the building inspector, this is what I found out, that's fine. But we cannot start having little mini neighborhood meetings to explain to folks what's going on all the time, because it's not appropriate.